It began with what seemed like an ordinary swipe. Samantha Price, a 27-year-old graphic designer living in Austin, Texas, had downloaded Tinder more for curiosity than anything else. Her friends had been urging her to try online dating, assuring her that everyone's doing it, and that meeting people digitally had become the new normal. When she matched with a man named Ethan Cole, his profile appeared harmless, charming, even. The photos showed a well-groomed man in his early 30s, smiling with a dog in one shot, sipping coffee in another. His bio was short and witty, looking for someone who loves adventures and good conversation. What Samantha didn't know was that the adventure ahead would be her last. Their first messages were light-hearted, sprinkled with emojis and banter. Ethan complimented her artwork. She teased him about his hipster coffee picture. It was easy. Too easy. Within 2 days, they had exchanged numbers and started texting late into the night. Friends noticed her excitement. She told her best friend, MIA, that Ethan seemed different, attentive, funny, and actually listening to what she said. They arranged to meet the following Friday for dinner. That Friday, Samantha left her apartment around 6:30 p.m., wearing a navy blue dress and a denim jacket. She texted MIA, "Wish me luck, red heart hash." It would be the last message she'd ever send. When Samantha didn't answer her phone later that night, MIA wasn't immediately worried. It wasn't unusual for dates to run late. But by Saturday morning, texts and calls were still going unanswered. Her parents, who lived 2 hours away, were alerted by noon. They drove to her apartment, finding her car missing and her bed untouched since she'd left for her date. MIA tried contacting Ethan. His number went straight to voicemail. His Tinder profile had vanished, not unmatched, but deleted entirely. That sent alarm bells ringing. By Saturday evening, Samantha's parents filed a missing persons report with the Austin Police Department. Detectives began by retracing her steps, phone records, last known location, security cameras. One grainy image emerged, Samantha, smiling, walking into a restaurant with Ethan. But there was no footage of her leaving. The following days were a blur of flyers, press conferences, and desperate pleas from family and friends. Social media amplified her case. #FindSamantha trended locally, and people began sharing warnings about online dating dangers. Police tracked Ethan's identity. The name Ethan Cole didn't match any driver's license in Texas. His phone was registered under a prepaid plan with no address. The restaurant manager recalled that Ethan had paid in cash. A server remembered he kept checking his watch. Samantha had seemed comfortable but slightly quieter toward the end of the meal. Surveillance cameras from nearby streets caught his car, a black Honda Accord with temporary plates, leaving the restaurant around 9:15 p.m. Samantha wasn't visible in the footage. 5 days into the search, police received a tip from a highway patrol officer in Oklahoma. A car matching the suspect vehicle had been spotted at a rest stop off I-35. By the time officers arrived, the car was gone. But security footage showed Ethan pumping gas nearby, alone. The timestamp matched the day after Samantha vanished. Investigators widened their search. They began tracking purchases made with his known prepaid debit card. One stood out, a purchase at a rural hardware store, duct tape, gloves, and heavy-duty trash bags. The evidence was mounting, but Samantha was still missing. On the 8th day, a sheriff's deputy in a remote part of northern Texas spotted a black Honda Accord parked awkwardly on the side of a service road. The plates matched the temporary ones from the earlier footage. The deputy approached cautiously. The car was locked. Through the window, the interior looked strangely neat, except for a faint reddish-brown smear on the passenger door handle. When the trunk was pried open, the deputy froze. Inside, wrapped in a tarp, was the lifeless body of Samantha Price. Her hands were bound with duct tape. Her face was bruised, her eyes closed as if sleeping. The scene was horrific and deliberate. Whoever had done this hadn't just killed her. They had transported her for days before abandoning the car. News of Samantha's discovery shattered the community. Vigils were held in her honor, and the restaurant where she had her last meal became a makeshift memorial with flowers and candles lining the entrance. Police released Ethan's image from the restaurant footage, asking the public for any leads. Tips flooded in. One caller claimed to have worked with him briefly under another name, Daniel Cross. A disturbing picture began to emerge. Ethan, or Daniel, had a history of short-term jobs, changing states frequently, and never leaving much of a trace. He had prior arrests for assault and harassment in 2 states, but none had resulted in long prison sentences. Digital forensics revealed that Ethan had been active on Tinder under at least 3 different names in the last year alone. Investigators found messages to other women that followed the same pattern: quick flattery, deep conversation, then pushing to meet in person within days. Some of these women described off moments, an intense stare, invasive questions, or sudden mood swings. One woman recalled leaving a date with him early because he became angry when she declined a drink he bought. She never reported it, but now wished she had. The police believed Samantha wasn't his first target, just the first whose case would make national headlines. Evidence showed Ethan had crossed into Oklahoma the day after the murder, possibly intending to reach Kansas. Authorities suspected he abandoned the car once he realized the search was closing in. He was now classified as a fugitive, and the U.S. Marshals Service joined the hunt. Posters warning women about his profile photos circulated widely on social media. But Ethan was always one step ahead, changing his appearance, shaving his beard, even dyeing his hair. 10 days after Samantha's body was found, police received a tip from a motel clerk in Wichita, Kansas. A man matching Ethan's photo had checked in under a different name, paying in cash. Officers surrounded the motel in the early morning hours. At 4:47 a.m., Ethan stepped out to smoke. He froze when he saw the officers, then bolted. The chase ended behind the motel when he tripped on loose gravel. He was tackled, handcuffed, and arrested without further struggle. In custody, Ethan said little. He asked for a lawyer almost immediately, but detectives had already built a strong case: fingerprints, security footage, the hardware store receipt, and most damning, DNA linking him to Samantha's body. The motive, however, remained unclear. Was it premeditated? Did something happen during the date? Or was Samantha simply unlucky enough to match with a predator who had been waiting for an opportunity? As the community mourned, the trial ahead promised to reveal the disturbing truth behind the man who hid behind charming photos and witty texts, and whose date ended in a trunk on a lonely Texas road. Ethan was officially charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, and tampering with evidence. Prosecutors announced they would seek the maximum penalty allowed by Texas law. At his arraignment, he appeared calm, almost smug. Dressed in a plain orange jumpsuit, he scanned the courtroom as if searching for someone. His eyes locked briefly with Samantha's parents before he looked away, expressionless. The public was outraged by his lack of remorse. News outlets replayed his arrest footage, dissected his past aliases, and questioned how someone with his history had avoided prison for so long. In court, the prosecution painted a vivid picture of Samantha's life: her talent as a graphic designer, her close relationship with her parents, her infectious laugh. They showed text messages from her to MIA in the days before the date, revealing her excitement and optimism. The contrast between those hopeful words and the brutality of her death was devastating. Her parents, speaking publicly for the first time, described her as the light of every room. Her father's voice broke as he said, "She was cautious, but she trusted people." He exploited that trust. Prosecutors presented an unshakable digital trail. Ethan's search history in the weeks before the murder included: how to disable GPS tracking on a car, best way to wrap a body, temporary license plates near me, cell tower data placed him near the restaurant and later traveling north toward Oklahoma. The hardware store receipt, duct tape, gloves, tarp, was timestamped less than 12 hours after Samantha was last seen alive. A forensic expert testified that DNA under Samantha's fingernails matched Ethan's. The bruising pattern on her wrists matched the duct tape purchased at the hardware store. In the trunk, investigators found hair fibers, bloodstains, and fingerprints belonging to Ethan. The car's interior had been hastily cleaned, but luminol testing revealed significant blood traces in the passenger seat area. The prosecution's narrative was becoming airtight, methodical, calculated, and chilling. Ethan's defense team argued that Samantha's death had been an accident during consensual rough intimacy. They claimed Ethan panicked, wrapped her in the tarp, and planned to quietly leave her body somewhere safe to avoid ruining his life. It was a story the jury didn't seem to buy. The hardware store purchases, the deleted Tinder profile, the cross-state drive, all spoke to planning, not panic. Still, the defense pushed the idea that there was no intent to kill. Midway through the trial, the court heard emotional victim impact statements. MIA described the moment she realized Samantha was missing, the endless phone calls, the helplessness. Samantha's mother described sleepless nights replaying the what ifs. Her father admitted he still texted her number sometimes, just to feel like I'm still talking to her. The jury saw the human cost, and the atmosphere in the courtroom shifted. prosecutors were allowed to introduce evidence of Ethan's prior violent behavior toward women. One ex-girlfriend testified that he once followed her to work for weeks after she broke up with him. Another said he choked her during an argument until she lost consciousness, but she never pressed charges. These accounts painted Ethan as a predator with a pattern, not a man who made a single mistake. The prosecution's closing was simple but devastating. This wasn't an accident. This was a man who hunted, who lied, who planned, and who thought he could get away with murder by hiding behind a fake name and a dating app. The defense urged the jury to consider the possibility of an unintended death, warning against emotional verdicts. But as the jury left to deliberate, most observers sensed the outcome was already decided. After just 4 hours, the jury returned. Ethan Cole, or Daniel Cross, was found guilty on all counts. In the sentencing phase, prosecutors pushed for life without parole. Ethan sat motionless as Samantha's parents spoke one last time. Her mother stared directly at him. "You took her from us, but you don't get to take our memories of her. You will die in a cell, alone, and we will live on." The judge delivered the sentence, life in prison without the possibility of parole. Samantha's story became a rallying cry for online dating safety. Advocacy groups launched campaigns urging users to verify identities, meet in public, and share date details with friends. Her parents established the Samantha Price Foundation, funding digital safety education for young adults. In a televised interview, MIA said, "We can't bring her back. But if her story saves one life, she didn't die for nothing." And so, the smiling man on Tinder who promised adventures now faces his final one, a life behind bars. For viewers, Samantha's case is a painful reminder. Behind every profile picture is a stranger, and sometimes, a predator. If you or someone you know uses dating apps, share this story. Talk about the risks. Protect each other. And remember, safety first, always.